A pastor from Dallas, Texas, and I were having a discussion about the idea of divine appointments. Do you know what I mean? He seemed genuinely confused over the notion. At noon, we were headed off to lunch. Now, somewhat unrelated to that very morning, I had received an email from my friend Ed Stetzer, and in it, he had informed me of a recent study that they had conducted where they found that 10% of Americans were thinking about death every single day. Now, that should shock us. There are 300 plus million Americans. So 10% would be more than 30 million people that are wandering around, all around us, thinking about death today. Okay, so now back to the pastor and me and lunch. As we sat down, I decided to ask the server about the stat that I just mentioned. I asked her, excuse me, I know this is going to sound funny, but just this morning I heard a statistic that I'm frankly having trouble believing. So I'm going to try to prove it out today by asking a question of 10 people. Will you be the first one? She agreed. So I asked her, have you thought about death today? I mean to tell you, the color literally vanished from her face. She began to weep. She pulled up her sleeves and showed us her wrists. They were simply destroyed. After a minute, in a whisper, she said, about a month ago, I tried to kill myself. I've been asking God, who I'm not even sure I believe in, that if he's real, would he send someone to tell me why I shouldn't do it again? Are you from God? I assured her that we were. She sat down, and 45 minutes later, she gave her heart to Jesus Christ, the lover of her soul. Because the pastor was local, we were able to immediately get her into church, grounded and growing in Christ. Now, on the way out of the restaurant, the pastor looked at me and said, now I know what you mean by a divine appointment. I've never experienced that before. I told him, in EE, that's pretty much all we experience. And the Bible tells us to expect such things. In Psalm 37:23, we read, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Oswald Chambers said, God is the great engineer, creating circumstances to bring about moments in our lives of divine importance, leading us to divine appointments. His devotional, My Utmost for His Highest, for November 14, is titled Discovering Divine Designs. And in it he writes, we can all see God in exceptional things, but it requires a culture of spiritual discipline to see God in every detail. Never allow that the haphazard is anything less than God's appointed order, and be ready to discover the divine designs anywhere. It is the divine life which continually makes more and more discoveries about the divine mind. In EE, since nearly the beginning, we've taught that witnesses need to be fat, faithful, available, and teachable. I think the key here is the second word, available. If we all start being available to be used by God, we're going to see things happen that we would never have thought could happen. And in the process, we're going to give God praise. This is our focus this week at EE. Please pray for God's work in and through us as we serve him. Have a great day in Christ.